Hyoto appears out of nowhere and breaks through the Kamiya dojo's surrounding wall. He confirms that he is among the Oni Wabanshu and commands the group to return Megumi. Sanosuke tells Kenshin to leave Hyoto to him, although Kenshin advises him to be wary because the opponents are members of the Oni Wabanshu. Sanosuke says that no matter the challenge, he refuses to back down. He then punched him straight in the gut, but Hyoto laughs and grabs Sano and breathes fire on him. Sano barely manages to escape. Hyoto is impressed, but says that he won't be able to survive a second round. Beshimi was watching the encounter nearby. Kenshin then jumps into the fight, saying that Hyoto's attack is merely a childish trick that won't affect him in the least. This angers Hyoto, who attacks Kenshin, but Kenshin blocks off the attack by slashing his sword through the flames, preventing them from touching him. Meanwhile, Megumi, who sees the battle, attempts to make her escape, but is caught by Kaoru, who tells her how shameful her action is, that is, abandoning those protecting her. Megumi says that an ordinary swordsman can't win with the Oni Wabanshu. Kaoru refuses, saying that no matter who the enemy is, Kenshin will always keep his promise to protect her. On the battlefield, Hyoto's flame runs out, and Kenshin remains unaffected by it, which surprised Megumi. Sanosuke then returns, saying that this is his battle and he wants to battle Hyoto himself without help. Hyoto, meanwhile, has drank a gallon of oil and is once again able to use his fire technique. Sano charges straight towards him. Kenshin notes that a straightforward attack is much wiser than backing away, since this reduces the risk of being affected by the flame. Sanosuke grabs Hyoto's gas bag from his mouth and takes it off. Hyoto attempts to punch Sanosuke, but he finishes off Hyoto with a hard kick right to the face. Megumi is stunned by Kenshin and Sano's power and asks who they are. Kaoru says that they are her close comrades. Yahiko says he is also among them. Beshimi, who is nearby, is angered by Hyoto's defeat and decides to finish off Megumi right there for causing him all that trouble, regardless of Kanryu's orders to bring her back alive. As he fires his poison dart toward Megumi, Kenshin notices it, and Yahiko quickly jumps in the way, causing him to be struck on the arm. Kaoru tends to him, but he says that it is nothing he can't handle before suddenly collapsing on her. Beshimi is angered that he missed his chance, but comes out into the open, saying that the kid had it coming for interfering and that he'll be dead within 1 hour. He then says he'll kill them all immediately, starting with the swordsman. Kenshin then attacks him from above, knocking him out. But to Kenshin's surprise, Beshimi's body is changed with a simple log while falling to the ground. Out of nowhere, Hanya appears in front of Kenshin, who demands he give Kenshin an antidote for Yahiko's poison. Hanya refuses, so Kenshin attacks him, but Hanya protects himself with hidden gauntlets on his wrists. He then punches Kenshin, who falls to the ground and grabs the unconscious Hyoto and Beshimi. Finally, Hanya escapes after telling Kenshin that he's surprised by his skills and is looking forward to challenging him soon. Kenshin realizes that Hanya too is a very skilled warrior. Afterward, Kenshin and Kaoru check on Yahiko, and Kenshin states that he has experience treating cuts and bruises, but not poisoning. Before Kaoru can suck poison out of Yahiko's arm, she's stopped by Megumi, who admonishes her from sucking poison out of the wound. She tells doing that causes infections and that an ordinary person cannot treat such an ailment. She analyzes Yahiko's conditions and identifies the poison, thereby ordering Kenshin and the others to bring her specific ingredients necessary to neutralize the poison. She then picks up Yahiko, bringing him back inside the dojo. Sometime later that night, Yahiko recovers under Dr. Gensai's watch, who tended to Yahiko at this time. The doctor tells them that Yahiko will fully recover after 3 to 4 days. Kaoru thanks the doctor, who says that it was the written instructions from Megumi telling them how to prepare the antidote that helped him. He then tells everyone that he recognizes the name of Megumi from the famous Takani family of doctors. He says that Megumi's family disappeared in the war and that Megumi became the assistant of a famous doctor 3 years ago. Megumi tries to leave the Kamiya dojo, but is stopped by Kenshin, who asks her what she is doing. Megumi says she's planning to go, but Kenshin answers that there is nobody in Aizu waiting for her. Megumi breaks down and explains that, at the beginning, she did not know the doctor she was working with was involved in the drug business. Megumi explains that some time ago, Kanryu accidentally killed the doctor, so Megumi is now the only person who knows the procedure to fabricate the spider's web. Kanryu, will never stop chasing her. Kenshin says some comforting words to Megumi, and then Kaoru, Oguni Gensai, and Sanosuke join to make her feel a little better. Back in Takeda Kanryu's mansion, Hanya informs Aoshi that Beshimi and Hyotoko were defeated by the swordsman they fought at the dojo, so they will need some time to recover. Hanya also says that he himself won't be able to fight because when he confronts Kenshin and punches him, Kenshin hits Hanya in the gut, so he won't be able to fight for about 3 days. Still, he is capable of doing some spying activities meanwhile. Aoshi is surprised, knowing that the swordsman must have the extraordinary skill to have been able to pull off something like that, and so orders Hanya to find out who he is. He thinks to himself that the swordsman may, in fact, be the legendary Hitokiri Himura Batasai, since he has red hair and a cross-shaped scar on his left cheek. Sanosuke walking through Tokyo on his own to know more about the spiderweb opium. Meanwhile, in Kamiya Dojo, Megumi prepares an ohagi dish to celebrate Yahiko's recovery. Kenshin, Kaoru, and Yahiko dig in and are ecstatic about the delicious meal. Kaoru asks Megumi if she'll teach her how to prepare ohagi that well, and she agrees, saying it is easy. Sanosuke then arrives and insults Megumi, saying that he would eat balls of mud rather than anything she prepares. Her dirty past saddens Megumi as a drug producer. Kenshin realizes that Kanryu will continuously pursue her until he gets what he wants. He says that it is better for her to stay in the dojo. Kaoru agrees, but Sanosuke is still unwilling to support her because of his friend's death. While Megumi is doing some chores alone at the dojo, a friendly-looking old man arrives and asks her if she needs anything, but she says no. The man removes his mask and is revealed to be Hanya in disguise. He grabs Megumi by the mouth, tells her that Kanryu wants to talk to her for a moment, threatening to poison the dojo's water well with mercury if she refuses. Reluctantly, Megumi agrees to go with Hanya. They go to the middle of the woods nearby, where Kanryu was waiting. Kanryu tells Megumi that he does not want to hurt her, but only wants her to join him again. Megumi refuses, saying that she'd rather die than continue producing drugs that kill people. Kanryu says that if she chooses this path, he'll order the Oniwa Banshu to burn down the Kamiya Dojo and everyone in it, which shocks Megumi, who faces no choice but to give in to his demands. Kanryu gives Megumi time to make her final decision, telling her to be aware of any fires that may be coming her way. He then leaves. Aoshi, who has been present all along, asks Kanryu why he doesn't just take Megumi now, and he says that he wants Megumi to join him willingly. The Batosai has no reason to involve himself. Megumi begins crying helplessly on the spot, knowing that there is nothing she can do. Later that day, Kaoru finds a letter in the dojo, written by Megumi, where she says she will return to Aizu. Kenshin realizes that she has no family left in Aizu, so he, Kaoru, and Yahiko head out to find her. Megumi arrives at Kanryu's mansion and asks to talk to him. In his office, Kanryu greets Megumi and asks her to prepare more spider's web opium. Instead, she intends to kill him and pulls out a small dagger. However, just as she is about to stab him, her knife vanishes, resulting from Aoshi's last-minute intervention. Kanryu, enraged, hits her continuously and tells her he will torture her into spilling the secrets of the formula of the new opium. Just outside Kanryu's mansion, Kenshin, Sanosuke, and Yahiko have vowed to rescue her at all costs. The group blast their way through Kanryu's bodyguards, pummeling their way through the bodyguards. Kanryu worriedly sees Kenshin's crew advance their way toward the mansion, and he thinks to himself why Himura Batasai is seeking to help Megumi. Aoshi tells him that Batasai does not simply act for profit, which Kanryu, a self-absorbed materialist, can never understand. Kanryu suddenly sees Kenshin's sinister eyes gazing directly upon him, and Kenshin tells him to give up and release Megumi at once. Kanryu laughs in desperation, telling Kenshin what a skilled warrior he is and that he's willing to pay him the salary of 50 bodyguards if he joins the Oniwa Banshu as his bodyguard. Kenshin continues demanding that he come down at once, and then Kanryu offers him the salary of 100 guards, then 200, and is turned down each time. Aoshi tells him that the man he faces isn't an adversary that can be bought with any amount of money. Kanryu then tells Aoshi to shut up. Kanryu agrees to give up Megumi, but asks for 1 hour so that preparations can be made. Kenshin walks away and Kanryu is relieved, thinking that he has accepted his offer, leaving him time to torture Megumi into spilling the secrets of the new opium formula. However, Kenshin then approaches a nearby lamppost and slices it in half, sending it flying at Kanryu's mansion. He says he'll be there within the hour, telling Kanryu to brace himself for what's to come as he waits. Kanryu's anxiety rises, and Aoshi tells him that his words did nothing but anger his adversary further. Kanryu demands that Aoshi and the Oniwabanshu defeat the approaching threat, saying that he won't tolerate any failure, like with Beshimi and Hyoto. Aoshi, deeply insulted, roughly grabs Kanryu, telling him that the Oniwabanshu follow only him and are ready to put their lives on the line for his sake, but have no obligation to follow Kanryu's demands. Kanryu says that he's the one who pays Aoshi large sums and that even Aoshi wouldn't defy his orders, which only angers Aoshi further. Kanryu asks him what he's supposed to do, and Aoshi tells him to stay where he is and count his money before leaving. Kanryu, unable to do anything after being belittled by Aoshi earlier, now begins revealing his anger at being insulted. Megumi wakes up in the observatory room, and Aoshi informs her that her friends have come to try and rescue her, but that she should not get her hopes up since they will not get very far. He tells her that what awaits her isn't liberation, but torture at the hands of Kanryu. Hence, Aoshi gives her the same knife, saying that she can either end her life right there or be tortured to death by Kanryu before leaving. Megumi begins looking at the dagger, wondering whether or not she should end it all. Kenshin and the others walk through the door of Kanryu's mansion, where they find Hanya to be their first enemy. In the entrance of the mansion, Kenshin offers Hanya a chance to step aside, but he refuses, saying that the Okashira's orders are absolute. He enters a Kenpo stance and Kenshin apologizes to him, saying that he cannot hold back because time is valuable. Hanya says likewise, and the battle between the two commences. Hanya charges straight towards Kenshin, landing a hard punch directly on his face, followed with a spinning back fist. He proceeds to attack Kenshin while he is on the ground, but Kenshin dodges just in time. Yahiko asks Kenshin why he's on the losing end of the battle, and Kenshin says that despite being able to predict Hanya's moves, his arms stretched right before his eyes. Hanya tells him that if he can't see through his technique, he won't last 1 minute against the Okashira. He says that the moment the two faced each other, Kenshin was under his spell. Meanwhile, up in the second floor, Aoshi senses that the battle has begun. Kenshin enters the Shinken stance, a defensive stance that allows the user to quickly respond to an opponent's attacks, but makes it difficult to perform offensive maneuvers. Hanya, recognizing the stance, asks if his opponent has already chosen the path of a coward, saying that such a man doesn't deserve to battle the Okashira and that he will die by his hands. Hanya once again charges towards Kenshin, but this time Kenshin dodges the attack just in time and hits his opponent in the face with the sheath of his sword, causing his mask to fall off. Kenshin says that Hanya's technique was simply the stripes on his arms, which created an optical illusion, causing his arms to appear shorter than they actually were, which caused Kenshin to misjudge the distance between the two earlier. Hanya realizes that the purpose of Kenshin's Shinken stance was to make it easier to calculate the distance, thus allowing him to see through the illusions. Hanya's mask then falls off, revealing a completely disfigured face. He revealed that he burned off his own lips, cut off his nose and ears, and crushed his cheekbones in order to disguise himself as anyone he needed. He also revealed that he was born in an area where a secret tradition of parents killing children to lessen food expenses existed. Even if the child survived, they were left all by themselves with no one to care for them. Hanya praised Aoshi for taking him in and giving him comrades and a new life, while also revealing steel claws from his gloves. The two fight and Kenshin seals the battle with a forward slash that knocks Hanya out, but suffers a slight cut on the shoulder during the exchange. Kenshin then commented on how Hanya should have been able to understand Megumi's feelings of isolation more than anyone else, questioning why he couldn't be considerate of Megumi, while Takeda spoke to Megumi through the door of the room. He apologized, saying they should both escape together. Megumi questioned what she gains from this, to which Takeda basically said they can make drugs and help people. He then claims he is a changed man who wants a new lease on life because he loves her, but Megumi says she won't fall for his lies and that they have no way to atone for their sins. Takeda then reveals his true colors, angrily blaming Megumi for the situation and calling her all kinds of names. The group then heads towards Megumi, and Sano looks at Hanya for a second, thinking to himself how powerful the commander of skilled warriors like Hanya, Beshimi, and Hyoto must be. On the way towards Aoshi, the group meets with another member of the Oniwabanshu named Shikijou, who is using a chain and an iron ball. Kenshin dodges his attack, but when Shikijou tries to attack again, Sanosuke catches the iron ball and declares he will fight Shikijou. Kenshin grabs Yahiko and they pass through Shikijou, so only Sanosuke stays to fight him. Yahiko expressed concern for Sanosuke. However, Kenshin countered that he'll not only be fine, but that he wouldn't let them help out even if they were there. Shikijou then revealed that he knows Sanosuke's identity as underground fighter Zanza, calling him a nobody now that he's without his Zanbato. Shikijou then uses the chain to imprison Sanosuke. After one hit, Sanosuke destroys the chain by brute force, and both of them start fighting with their bare hands. Shikijou seems to have an advantage, and even when Sanosuke dodges some hits, Shikijou does a headbutt directly to Sanosuke's skull. He explains that he has been a part of the Oniwabanshu since years ago, and that in the Bakumatsu, he used to be a member of the Ishin Shishi and sneaked inside Edo's castle. But he was defeated by a 13-year-old Aoshi, who was surprised by his abilities and offered him the chance to join the Oniwabanshu and use their performance-enhancing drugs. The fight continues, and Shikijou also expresses admiration for Sanosuke's abilities and offers him as well a chance to join the Oniwabanshu and use their performance-enhancing drugs so he can become stronger, perhaps even stronger than Shikijou himself. Sanosuke declines and tells him that Kenshin is another kind of leader who fights for the common person in this new era, and that people like himself surround Kenshin in hopes for a better future in the Meiji era. He says that Shikijou should meet Kenshin in order to understand the true nature of leadership and goals. After Shikijou does headbutts directly to Sanosuke's skull, Sanosuke responds by crushing Shikijou's hands, headbutting himself into Shikijou and then finishing him off with a punch to the forehead. After knocking Shikijou out, Sanosuke tries to go up the stairs, but faints in exhaustion to his own wounds in battle. Meanwhile, Kenshin and Yahiko, who are already at the second floor, open the door to the ballroom. Standing in front of them is Aoshi. Kenshin asks him where Kanryu and Megumi are, and Aoshi tells him to ask him with his sakabato, while he responds with his own weapon, a short-looking blade. Kenshin asks him if he really thinks he can beat him with a wakizashi, and Aoshi tells him to come and try. Aoshi then pulls out his small blade, which Yahiko identifies as a kodachi, a blade about halfway in between a katana and a wakizashi that is ideal for defense but bad when it comes to offense. Kenshin is surprised that a man like Aoshi would use a weapon of such sort. While Kenshin is thinking to himself, Aoshi verbally declares his attack and charges towards him. Kenshin realizes how incredibly fast his opponent is. He blocks Aoshi's downward slash, but is suddenly hit in the face with a powerful kick. Kenshin realizes that, like Hanya, Aoshi uses Kenpo. Aoshi proceeds to fire Kenpo strikes on Kenshin, sending him flying off. Kenshin manages to land on his feet and charges forward, trying to attack Aoshi, but he is easily able to defend against his sword strikes using his light and fast kodachi. Kenshin tells Aoshi that he realizes his techniques, that is using the kodachi as a defensive weapon while using Hanya's Kenpo for offensive attacks. Aoshi corrects him, stating that it was he who taught Hanya Kenpo and that there is a vast difference in speed and power between the teacher and the pupil. Kenshin's injuries, as a result of Aoshi's repeated strikes, suddenly manifest and he falls to the ground, coughing up blood. Yahiko looks on in shock as Kenshin faces a seemingly downhill battle against the overwhelmingly skilled and powerful Aoshi. Aoshi revealed that he wants to kill Kenshin due to his former role as an imperialist, revealing himself to have been part of the Tokugawa shogunate. Aoshi then discussed how the former Tokugawa shogunate acted at a certain battle, revealing that they abandoned 10,000 soldiers and left them to die. He then surrendered without bloodshed, to which Aoshi says his regret about that fact is that he couldn't fight. He asserts that if they had fought back then, the Tokugawa shogunate would have won the war. He reveals their plan to light Edo on fire and kill imperial army officers, allowing the shogunate's army to crush the leaderless imperialist army. Aoshi then says that doing something like that now is meaningless, saying that proof of his group's superiority in the war is all that matters now, clearly meaning he'll prove it by beating Kenshin. Kenshin respond that neither side was right or wrong, with both simply concerned for the country's future and the people's happiness. Kenshin then says that Aoshi has none of that, filled with only competitiveness, and as a revolutionary warrior, he can't sit there and let Aoshi spout such nonsense. Kenshin then goes to attack Aoshi with a Ryu Tsui Sen, immediately followed by an on-air Batojutsu, but Aoshi blocks the attacks and hits Kenshin more times. Meanwhile, at other place of the mansion, Kanryu is furious at Aoshi, the Oniwabanshu and Kenshin, when he is reminded by another employee about a test of some device he has. As a result, Kanryu realizes that is the solution he has been looking for to get rid of everyone. Kenshin eventually figures out a way to counter his attack, despite the edge Aoshi has in speed as a result of using a kodachi. Kenshin holds his sword by the blade, shortening its length and allowing him the speed to attack Aoshi with the sword and then use the hilt of the blade to strike his throat. Yahiko remembers some words by Kaoru about the reach of a sword and its importance to control it in battle, so he comes to the conclusion that they are now fighting on the same terms. Aoshi, impressed by Kenshin's skills, uses his ultimate attack, Kaiten Kenbu, which Kenshin calls a sword dance. He then strikes, which nearly kills Kenshin, saying afterwards that no one has ever survived that attack. Yahiko looks in shock, believing Kenshin has been killed and, devastated, vows to kill Aoshi at any cost. But Kenshin responds from the ground and tells that he is a great student of the Kamiya Kashin Ryu, who should not end his life here, and stands up again. Aoshi is completely startled by Kenshin's recovery, and he tells him that he had used his sheath as a shield at the very last moment to lessen the impact. Aoshi commends Kenshin's skills, saying that he is truly worthy of the title Strongest, but that this title will be taken from him after he is defeated. Aoshi tries to repeat the Kaiten Kenbu, but this time Kenshin blocks the attack, grabbing Aoshi's kodachi after he knocks Kenshin's katana away. Kenshin say he doesn't care about this contest for the title of the strongest and reverses the momentum by landing a devastating blow to Aoshi's throat. Aoshi realizes the hard impact of the blow and knows he's been defeated, which devastates him. He then lands a hard hit on Kenshin, causing both of them to fall. However, Aoshi is the one knocked out from the exchange of blows, as Kenshin immediately stands up. Around 10 seconds after being knocked down, Aoshi wakes up again, and he asks Kenshin why he didn't finish him off, and Kenshin tells him that he is a Rurouni who refuses to take lives. Kenshin asks Aoshi why he doesn't use his extraordinary skills elsewhere. He tells Kenshin that he was offered several high-ranking positions as an officer, but turned them down for the sake of his disciples, who had no place to go and nothing to do in the new era, being old-fashioned warriors. Aoshi says that it was his responsibility to do whatever he could for his disciples, since he made them into members of the Oniwabanshu. Having lost the fight, Aoshi asks Kenshin to end his life, and that if he doesn't, he'll target him as many times as it takes to win the title of strongest from him. Kenshin has no problem with that, as long as no one else is involved in their battles. At that moment, Kanryu enters the ballroom and presents to them his Gatling gun, which can fire 200 bullets a minute. He declares his intention to kill Aoshi, along with the rest of the Oniwabanshu and Kenshin. He begins firing it at everyone, but missing on purpose to make them run in circles. The sound of the Gatling gun is heard by Megumi in the third floor, who wonders if Kenshin and everyone are safe. It is also heard by Sanosuke, Hanya, and Shikijou downstairs, as they realize something is happening where Aoshi and Kenshin are fighting, so they decide to go. Elsewhere, Beshami and Hyoto wake up while recovering from their injuries, and also realize they should go to investigate. Meanwhile, Kanryu keeps firing the Gatling gun at Kenshin, who is carrying Yahiko, and Aoshi, but still missing. Aoshi asks Kanryu where he got such a weapon, and Kanryu arrogantly tells him to call him Lord Kanryu, firing in his direction. Aoshi receives several shots in the leg. Kanryu says that he has no intention of simply being a drug lord, but wishes to use his proceeds from the opium business to establish himself as an underground arms dealer, selling weapons like the Gatling gun he has in his possession. He states that Kenjutsu means absolutely nothing and that money is the true determinant of power. Sanosuke, Hanya, and Shikijou arrive at the ballroom, and Shikijou runs to help Aoshi, while Hanya tells Kenshin that he should run towards Kanryu to stop them. And Kanryu, facing with the dilemma of who to shoot first, decides to fire at Aoshi for insulting him earlier, but Shikijou shields him and is killed in the process. Shikijou, falling to his knees, speaking as though he's preparing himself for death, but is satisfied that he was martyred protecting his Okashira, telling him not to be sad. Beshimi and Hyotoko also arrive at the ballroom, and Hyotoko starts running towards Kanryu, warning him not to shoot at his body, or everyone will explode from the oil in his stomach. Kanryu waits until Hyotoko is closer and shoots at the head, killing him. Beshimi jumps from behind him, throwing a dart towards Kanryu. He is shot, and the dart is diverted and does not hit Kanryu. Aoshi is devastated at the murder of his loyal followers. Kanryu proclaimed that the Oniwabanshu are as useless as he thought. Hananya then asks Kenshin how long it'll take him to get his sword and kill Takeda, to which Kenshin says 10 seconds. Hananya then points out where Megumi Takani is being captured, adding that he was thinking of Megumi the whole time but couldn't value her above Aoshi Shinomori, while he covers him, knowing that he will die in the process. It happens just as Hanya plans, and Aoshi is once again broken to bits as he sees his best disciple die right in front of his eyes and straight after the others. Kenshin, now wielding his Sakabato, is the prime target of Kanryu, who fires towards him. Just as he is about to be shot like the others, the bullets stop since the Gatling gun has run out of ammunition. Kanryu, seeing Kenshin right next to him with a devastating look in his eyes, begins pleading for mercy, and Kenshin tells him to ask his money, hitting him hard in the face with his Sakabato, knocking him out. Kenshin say that they should go find Megumi, leaving Aoshi surrounded by his now deceased comrades. Team Kenshin then breaks down the door and finds Megumi, who apologizes to them for the trouble she has caused. She says that she'll end her life to end the misery she's brought to them, adding that she was happy to meet them in her final weeks of living. Just as Megumi is about to stab herself, Sano grabs the knife with his hand, asking her what in the world she's doing, pulling it off her and causing her to fly back. She says that she deserves to die for all of her horrible deeds. Yahiko then reveals that the police have arrived, meaning that Team Kenshin needs to leave quickly. Megumi then hands Kenshin a balm to stop his bleeding before telling him how to exit and thanking him for all he's done. The police arrive at the mansion, and Megumi go down to the ballroom to talk to Chief Uramura. They have already arrested Kanryu's for drug commerce, and even though Kanryu tries to make Megumi get arrested too, which she begins to say is true. However, Kenshin stops her before she gets the words out, instead claiming Kanryu is to blame for forcing her to produce it. Yahiko confirms this at Kenshin's request, with the latter subtly pleading with the captain to take this explanation at face value. The police then say that Megumi is free to go before taking Kanryu away. Kenshin then tells her that killing herself won't make amends. The only way to do that is to help save people, as he does using his Sakabato to atone for his own crimes. He suggests that she become a doctor to atone for her misdeeds, with Sanosuke and Yahiko also offering words of encouragement on this choice. Kenshin then asks the police chief how they'll deal with Aoshi, to which the chief says that there were only 4 beheaded corpses and Kanryu when they arrived. Kenshin reveals that there's an entrance Aoshi could have used to escape, prompting Megumi to guide him to the route's exit. They find the exit open, confirming that he did indeed escape via the secret route. Suddenly, at top external wall of the mansion, Aoshi appears holding the 4 heads of his Oniwabanshu comrades, looking totally furious but broken. Sanosuke tells Aoshi that it's not his fault and that they gave their lives for him. Kenshin then asks Aoshi to fight him one more time and defeat him before adorning his comrades' graves with the word strongest. Aoshi says to make sure he doesn't die before he can kill him, retreating immediately after. Team Kenshin and Megumi then head home to Kaoru's dojo. Kaoru receives them cheerfully, with cuts in all her fingers when trying to prepare breakfast for everyone. Sanosuke and Yahiko try to go to sleep instead, but Kaoru forces them to partake in her preparations. Megumi asks if it's okay for her to partake as well, which Kenshin and Kaoru happily confirm. They all eat breakfast cheerfully. Kaoru tells Megumi that she is welcome to visit the dojo whenever she pleases, and Megumi thanks her and bids farewell to Kenshin and the others as she goes off on a journey to become a doctor, under the guidance of Dr. Oguni Gensai. At this moment, Kenshin reveals that he declared himself Ayoshi's target to give him a reason to live before asking Sanosuke if he spoke with Shikijou at all. It's then revealed that Shikijou told Kenshin that Sanosuke had potential and to take care of him. Kenshin then says he wishes they could have gotten to know the Oni Wabanshu better, to which Sanosuke agrees. Aoshi has buried his comrades somewhere deep in the mountains, telling them that someday he will place flowers on them. He then walks deep into the forest. Early in the morning, Yahiko is practicing kenjutsu at the Kamiya dojo, remembering the fight Kenshin had with Aoshi and the Oni Wabanshu. Later that morning, Kaoru comments to Kenshin and Sanosuke of the fact that Yahiko seems to be taking kenjutsu much more seriously lately and has been going away almost daily. They speculate of the fact that Yahiko may have a girlfriend, may be training somewhere else to improve his abilities, or may be going out to eat. Yahiko then appears and just tells them to stop peeking at his life. Kenshin then asks Yahiko where he's been, and he simply replies that he was out on a walk. Kenshin responds that it's clearly more than a walk if he's skipping out on training. However, Yahiko then defends himself with an upset expression before running away. Sometime later, Yahiko leaves the dojo trying not to be followed, but Kenshin, Kaoru and Sanosuke secretly follow him without being seen to discover where he goes. They follow Yahiko to the Akabeko, where Tai tells them that Yahiko has been working there for several days already. Sanosuke, suspecting that he's here because of Tsubame, a girl close his age who also works at the Akabeko. However, Tai says that Tsubame started working here after Yahiko did. As the others eat a meal, they discuss what he could possibly be after working here, with all of them agreeing that their initial guesses are wrong. Tsubame is then called to take care of some customers, and she is then confronted by a group of bad-looking people. Later that afternoon, Yahiko notices that the thugs, led by Nagaoka Mikio, takes her away. He decides to follow them. Mikio threatens Tsubame into telling information about the activities at the Akabeko, and she tells them that the daily earnings of the Akabeko are taken back to the owner's house every day, and Mikio asks her if she made an imprint of the key to the owner's house. She stalls for a moment and then begs him not to steal. In response, he hits her in the face hard for encroaching her authority, reminding her that his own household ruled over hers for 300 years. He threatens to kill the owners of the Akabeko, and so Tsubame reaches for the key. Suddenly, Yahiko appears and tells them that the master-slave relationship of the Edo era has ended, and under the Meiji era, such injustice no longer exists. Kenshin, Kaoru and Sano too are in the background, seeing what is taking place. Yahiko tells the thugs to drop their sinister plans, or he'll stop them, and so Mikio orders them to attack him. Yahiko fights them off, but then Mikio throws a katana at Yahiko's feet, which causes him to fall to the ground. So the thugs then begin beating him up as Tsubame protests helplessly and eventually gives Mikio the key, whereby he orders his men to halt. While Yahiko was being beaten up, Kenshin stopped Kaoru from interfering, saying that if he didn't learn to fight his battles independently, he'd never grow any stronger. After the thugs leave, Tsubame tearfully apologizes to Yahiko for getting him involved, and he asks her when they plan to act. She tells him tomorrow night, and he vows to stop them. Yahiko leaves, telling her that involving himself was his own decision, and so not her fault. Yahiko knows that he cannot seek the help of the police, as this would put Tsubame in the red light, and cannot seek Kenshin and Ko's help. He must deal with this matter alone. Yahiko begins training with several wooden boards and finds the exercise difficult. He wonders how he will be able to defeat multiple opponents. Yahiko asks him advice on how to fight off multiple opponents. Kenshin tells of a method that the Ishin Shishi used during the Bakumatsu when faced with similar situations. They would run away, and while their opponents were chasing them, each one of them would be separated from the other as a result of their differences in speed, allowing one to fight them one at a time while running again after each win repetitively until all the opponents are taken care of. He then tells Yahiko that the method works towards getting adversaries into one-on-one battles, and so requires the user to run very fast and defeat each opponent very quickly. Kaoru reminds Yahiko that since the Kamiya Kashinryu is a style based on Katsujinkan, that is the sword that gives life or protects, victory or defeat seals the fate of both the user and the ones he protects. It is night. Mikio and his thugs make their move and reach the Akabeko owner's house. Mikio pulls out the key imprint that Tsubame reluctantly gave to him, and out of nowhere, Yahiko snatches it from him and runs. Mikio and his henchmen run after him. Tsubame, who is present and hiding behind a nearby house, sees what has happened. Kaoru appears before her, commending her for wanting to stop the thugs herself. Mikio and his men are lured into a narrow alleyway, which allows Yahiko to fight them one-on-one. Mikio realizes what Yahiko has done and orders his men to kill him. The thugs draw blades, and as the thugs approach him, they look above and see Kenshin and Sano standing. They recognize them by their faces, causing them to worry. They run away in fear, and Mikio is the only one left. Yahiko wonders what in the world happened. As he turns around, Kenshin and Sano suddenly hide their presence but continue to watch closely how the battle develops. Mikio draws his sword, and Yahiko faces his first battle against an opponent with a real sword. Kaoru and Tsubame are now at the scene too, albeit hiding themselves in the background. Mikio grazes Yahiko's shoulder slightly and slices some of his hair with his blade, but Yahiko refuses to give up. He is constantly pushed backwards and then cornered against the wall, with no apparent means of escape. Tsubame then shouts towards Yahiko, begging him to win, thus making her presence known as well as that of Kaoru. Yahiko suddenly remembers Kenshin's words about victory or defeat, sealing his fate and the fate of those he protects. The two engage one another once more. Mikio slashes his katana at Yahiko's feet, but he jumps dodging the attack, then he steps on the katana trapping it. So Yahiko attacks Mikio with a powerful hit to the head, knocking him out. He then asks Kaoru what she's doing here. He then turns around calling out to Kenshin and Sanosuke on the rooftop. Tsubame then thanks Yahiko, promising that she won't be sobby or jittery anymore, she then being walked home by Kaoru. Sanosuke asks Yahiko why he's been working a day job, to which he reveals that he wants to buy a sakabato so he can be like Kenshin one day. Sanosuke laughs at this, while Kenshin looks at Yahiko proudly and replies that sakabatos are quite expensive. Early on the morning, Kaoru gets ready to leave the dojo, and after Yahiko accidentally watches Kaoru while changing clothes, she gets angry and hits him. Kenshin appears later and asks where Kaoru is going. She says she is going to the Maekawa dojo to train kendo with the master, an old friend from the family. She also mentions that the master has expressed interest in meeting Kenshin, so she asks Kenshin to go with her. Kenshin initially refuses, but Kaoru gives him more household chores, so he accepts. Somewhere else in town, a young kid gives information to a large, menacing man about the state of the kendo dojos in Tokyo. The boy says that there are a couple of mediocre dojos, except for the Maekawa dojo that has a really strong instructor who used to be an important warrior back in Kyoto in the Bakumatsu days. He also mentions that there are gossips about a legendary swordsman staying at the Kamiya dojo, but the young boy's boss does not care about it and decides to go to the Maekawa dojo as well to face that strong instructor. They arrive to the Maekawa dojo where they meet Maekawa Miyauchi, an aging swordsman who is in charge of the dojo. All the students in the dojo are excited because of a duel between Maekawa Miyauchi and Kenshin. Miyauchi challenges Kenshin, but he refuses. After a quite long exchange of sights, Miyauchi desists and asks Kaoru to forgive him. He just wanted to face this strong warrior to duel, but says he has been defeated by Kenshin's refusal. So Kaoru is training with the students at the dojo, while Kenshin talks to Maekawa Miyauchi, who complains about how the kenjutsu is getting weak nowadays. Maekawa revealed that he usually only has 10 or fewer students, with the numbers today being due to Kaoru coming as a special attraction. Kenshin offered encouraging words to Maekawa as he lamented over the state of his dojo. Suddenly, the big menacing man appears at the Maekawa dojo and even enters the main hall without taking his shoes off. He presents himself as Isurugi Raihuta and claims to be very worried about the state of swordsmanship in Japan in the current era. He challenges the master of the dojo. The young boy who gave Raihuta intel also appears and asks Raihuta if they're going to fight using a real katana or a wooden one. He answers he will use a shinais, and the boy laughs. Maekawa Miyauchi accepts the duel, and Kaoru offers to be a referee. They set in a 3-point match using shinais and the duel begins. Raijuta quickly hits Maekawa in the shoulder with tremendous strength. Maekawa is hurt and the duel pauses. And even though Kaoru wants to stop the duel, Maekawa insists on continuing the duel. As soon as it resumes, Raijuta charges to Maekawa and hits him in the head with all his strength. The shinai breaks and Maekawa goes unconscious. Even thought the duel has finished, and Kaoru rushes to stop it, Raijuta grabs Maekawa and wants to wound his neck with the broken shinai to kill him. Before he can finish Maekawa off, Kenshin enters the scene to stop him. Raijuta challenges Kenshin to a duel, but Kenshin refuses. So Raijuta tells his young assistant to grab the dojo wooden sign. He gives Raijuta the idea to burn it down on the street. Kaoru wants to stop Raijuta and challenges him to retake the dojo wooden sign. So Kenshin steps up to face Raijuta instead of Kaoru. They agree to use Bakutos and to a one-point duel with Kaoru once again as referee. Once the duel begins, Kenshin just focuses on evading Raihuta's attacks and does not attack him at all. Kaoru realizes Kenshin just wants to end the duel on a stalemate, so Raijuta can't grab the dojo wooden sign. Once Raijuta also realizes Kenshin's plan, he loses all his patience and performs a special movement. The air around Raihuta's Bakuto distorts while he is attacking Kenshin. He realizes something special is about to happen and steps back. Raijuta is surprised Kenshin evaded the attack and decides to leave for good before asking Kenshin for his name. After the danger is gone, everyone focuses on taking care of the badly injured Maekawa. After the attack, the dojo's floor is cut, like if a sharp object had cut it, and Kenshin's Bakuto is also cut. Once he is alone, Raijuta says it's the first time ever someone evades this technique, Izuna. Back in the Kamiya dojo, Sanosuke is pissed of the idea that someone interesting appeared while he was not present. Kaoru gets angry and hits him, but Kenshin says that was a fair duel, and Raijuta was indeed strong. Suddenly, a carriage appears at the dojo and a servant gives Kenshin a written invitation. It's an invitation from Raijuta who wants to talk to him at the Tsukayama state. So the Kenshin and others decide to travel to that place, and as they arrive, they are shocked to see such a rich, big and elegant place. The owner of the grounds appears, Tsukayama Yuzaemon, alongside his son, Yutaro. He was the young boy who was assisting Isurugi Raijuta on the duel. Yuzaemon reprimands Yutaro and tells Kenshin that Raijuta wants to talk to him. He goes alone and Yutaro stays with Kaoru, Sanosuke and Yahiko. Sanosuke ties Yutaro to a tree so he does not bother them while Kenshin meets Raijuta. He asks Kenshin about what is his opinion about the current state of swordsmanship in the modern era. Kenshin does not have issues with the idea of the kenjutsu disappearing eventually. Kenshin asks him why he is attacking dojos. Raijuta says he wants to eliminate all the weak dojos and instaurate his own style, Izuna, as the one true technique and his school, the Shinko Ryu, as the most powerful in the country. He laments how the soul of the samurai is dying day by day since the modern kenjutsu is weak by using wooden swords instead of a katana. Raijuta asks Kenshin to join him in his quest to revitalize the true soul of the swordsmanship, but Kenshin refuses. In response, Raijuta declares Kenshin is now an enemy of the Shinko Ryu, and he attacks an off-guard Kenshin. Next part of the video is coming soon. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel.